Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, let's cut straight to it. You're putting in the work, making great YouTube videos, but the views just aren't quite where you want them to be.
Yeah, it's a common frustration.
So today, we're diving deep into something that's maybe overlooked, but is crucial, the YouTube thumbnail. We're going to help you unlock its potential.
Absolutely. Because the fundamental truth really is this. A fantastic video that nobody clicks on. It's a missed opportunity. That thumbnail is your front line.
It's the gatekeeper.
Exactly. It's the visual magnet that either pulls viewers in or, they just scroll right past.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to arm you with real, actionable strategies. Things you can actually use for testing and finding those thumbnails that really work.
The ones that perform. These are the images that will directly lead to more views and ultimately real channel growth.
And just think about this for a sec. A single, well-optimized thumbnail, it could potentially double, maybe even triple your video's views.
It's huge. The impact can be really significant.
That's the kind of impact we're digging into today.
So let's break down why these little images carry so much weight. I mean, YouTube is flooded, right? Your thumbnail basically acts like a mini billboard.
A tiny billboard in a massive city of videos.
Precisely. It's constantly fighting for attention against, everything else.
Yeah, think about your own browsing habits. When you're scrolling through YouTube, what actually makes you pause? Chances are it's a thumbnail that just, grabs you. And viewers make these decisions incredibly fast, like less than a second.
It's almost subconscious. And look, this isn't just our gut feeling. YouTube itself explicitly states that thumbnails, along with titles, are the top two factors influencing click-through rate, CTR.
CTR. That key metric. The percentage of people who see your thumbnail, see your video offered to them, and actually decide to click.
And the link is, it's crystal clear. Better thumbnails usually mean a higher CTR.
Which means more views.
Which means more views. And at the end of the day, more views are the engine for any growing channel. If people don't click, you don't grow. It's pretty much that simple.
Okay. So we get it. They're vital. How do we move beyond just guessing or picking what we think looks nice and actually figure out which thumbnails are the winners?
Right. This brings us to let's call it the science of thumbnail testing. It's really about using data, actual data, to optimize for those clicks, not just relying on aesthetics or gut feeling.
Data over guesswork. I like it.
And there are basically two main ways to approach this. You've got manual testing, and then you have more data-driven testing, usually using tools.
Okay, let's tackle manual testing first. What does that look like in practice?
So with manual testing, the process is fairly straightforward. You upload a thumbnail with your video, then you head into YouTube Studio and you keep an eye on its performance.
Looking at impressions and CTR.
Exactly. You track impressions, how many times YouTube actually showed your thumbnail versus the click-through rate. Then maybe after a few days, you swap it out. Put up a different thumbnail version.
And track that one too.
Then you compare the results, see which one did better over its test period.
Seems logical. But what are the catches, the downsides to doing it manually like that?
Well, the biggest issues are really time and data reliability. It's slow, right? Because you have to test thumbnail A, then thumbnail B sequentially.
One after the other.
Yeah. And also, the YouTube algorithm isn't static. It's always changing, being tweaked. So any difference in performance you see between test A and test B.
It might not just be the thumbnail.
Precisely. It could be partly the thumbnail, but also partly because the algorithm was maybe favoring your video more or less during one of the test periods. It muddies the waters a bit, makes a true comparison harder.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So manual testing gives you some idea, but it sounds like it's not the sharpest tool in the shed for getting really reliable data fast.
It's a starting point, but yeah, there's a more efficient way. And that's where data-driven testing really shines, often using specialized tools.
Tools like?
There are several good ones out there. TubeBuddy, vidIQ, Thumblytics. These platforms offer specific A/B testing features built for YouTube thumbnails.
Okay, A/B testing. How do those tools work differently? What's the mechanism?
So instead of you manually swapping, these tools let you upload, say, 2 or 3 thumbnail versions for the same video right from the start.
Ah, okay. Multiple options up front.
Right. And then when YouTube shows your video to different viewers, the tool cleverly shows thumbnail A to some people and thumbnail B to others at the same time.
Simultaneously.
It's essentially running a controlled experiment live on your actual audience.
Oh, I see. So everyone's seeing the video in the same algorithmic weather, so to speak, that bypasses the algorithm shift problem we talked about.
Exactly. Because they're running concurrently, you get a much cleaner, more direct comparison of how the thumbnails actually perform against each other. The tool tracks the clicks for each version.
And gives you the winner based on real data.
Yep. Data-backed insights, not just your opinion. It's faster, it's much more efficient at finding that winning thumbnail. The takeaway: data-driven testing saves time and gives you results you can actually trust.
Definitely sounds like the smarter way to go if you're serious about this. Okay, so whether we're testing manually or using a tool, what kinds of things should we be testing? What visual elements make the biggest difference?
This is where the fun experimentation comes in. There are several key things you can play with that often have a big impact.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Okay, well, first off, faces. Test the presence or absence of a human face. Does including your face or a face make your thumbnails more engaging for your audience? Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Depends on the niche, I guess.
Absolutely. And what if a face doesn't really fit your content? That's fine. Then maybe you experiment with text.
Big, bold text versus no text.
Right. Does clear, easy-to-read text help? Or does a cleaner, image-only thumbnail do better? Also, think about color contrast. This is a big one.
How so?
Like using bright colors against darker backgrounds or testing specific combinations. Some creators swear by, say, red versus blue backgrounds. Finding one consistently pulls more clicks.
Interesting. Like visual psychology grabbing the eye.
Could be. It's about standing out in that crowded feed. Also, consider framing.
Framing, you mean like close-ups versus wider shots?
Yeah, exactly. Does a really tight, zoomed-in shot on a key detail work better? Or does a wider perspective showing more context draw people in? And test emotional expression.
Like the classic surprised face thumbnail.
Sometimes. Test a shocked or surprised expression versus maybe just a neutral or smiling one. See what generates more curiosity for your specific video topic.
Right, it has to match the content too. What about like graphics, arrows, circles?
Definitely test those. Adding simple graphic elements, arrows pointing to something, circles highlighting an area, maybe even relevant emojis test if they help direct attention or convey emotion.
Okay.
And honestly, even really subtle things can matter, like where you place a key element. Does putting your face on the left versus the right side make a difference? Sometimes, surprisingly, it does.
Wow. I saw a study once where just moving an arrow slightly boosted clicks.
It happens. It shows how sensitive viewers can be to these visual cues, even if they don't consciously realize it.
It's amazing that these seemingly tiny details can swing the click decision.
It really is.
Yeah.
The main thing is to be systematic. Try out different elements. Don't just stick with one style because you like it. Let the data tell you what your audience responds to.
Okay, so we're running these tests, whether manually or with a tool. We're getting impressions, we're getting clicks. How much data is enough? How do we know if the results are actually meaningful, statistically significant, and not just random noise?
Good question. Statistical significance is crucial. You don't want to make a change based on just a handful of clicks. If you're using one of those dedicated A/B testing tools,
Like TubeBuddy or vidIQ.
right. Most of them will give you guidance, but a good rule of thumb is to aim for at least 1,000 impressions per thumbnail variant being tested.
1,000 views of each thumbnail option.
At a minimum, yeah. Ideally, more is better. More data gives you higher confidence that the result you're seeing is real and not just chance. Think of it like polling. You need a decent sample size.
Makes sense. And what about for manual testing? If we're doing it the slow way, swapping them out.
If you're testing manually, it's generally recommended to let each thumbnail run for a decent period. Maybe a full 48 to 72 hours.
2 or 3 days each.
Yeah, to gather enough data under relatively stable conditions. And also, be a bit careful about when you test.
What do you mean?
Well, try to avoid testing across, say, a major holiday weekend, or maybe right when you launch if your initial traffic is super spiky and weird. Viewing patterns can be different then.
Okay. So those unusual traffic patterns could skew the data for one of the thumbnails.
Exactly. You want to compare them during periods with sort of normal viewing behavior for your channel if possible to get that clear signal on which thumbnail is truly performing better.
Right. Consistency during the test. Got that. Now, this is pretty interesting. I keep hearing about AI and creative stuff. Can AI actually help with creating thumbnail ideas?
It definitely can. And it's becoming a really useful tool in the kit. AI platforms, things like Midjourney or Canva has its AI features. Even ChatGPT with DLOE, you can use them to brainstorm and generate thumbnail concepts.
How does that work? You just type in a description.
Pretty much, you give it a prompt describing the video or the visual style you want, create a thumbnail showing a surprise scientist looking at a glowing beaker or whatever, and the AI generates unique images based on that.
So it's like having an AI assistant for visual brainstorming. Kind of, yeah. It can be great for breaking out of your usual visual ruts and exploring maybe more unconventional or attention-grabbing ideas that you wouldn't have thought of yourself.
That sounds potentially powerful. Any caveats?
Definitely. It's important to see AI-generated images mostly as a starting point. They often need refinement.
Not just use them straight out of the box.
Probably not. You might need to tweak them, add your specific text overlays, adjust colors, maybe composite elements to make sure it perfectly fits your video's message and, your channel's overall look and feel.
Okay, so AI can be the creative spark, but the human designer still needs to refine it and make it truly work as a thumbnail.
Absolutely. And, it all comes back to that ultimate goal we keep mentioning, clickability.
Right. It's not about making the prettiest picture.
Not necessarily. The most effective thumbnail, the best thumbnail, is simply the one that gets the most clicks. Period. Even if you personally think another version looks quote-unquote better, that's the mindset shift you need. Data wins.
Okay, let's start wrapping this up. If we boil it all down, what's the single most important message you want people to take away from this deep dive?
I think it's this. If you're serious about growing on YouTube, if you really want the videos you work hard on to succeed, then consistent data-driven thumbnail testing. It's not just a nice to have, it's essential.
It's fundamental. You're putting all that effort into the video itself. You owe it to yourself to make sure people actually get through the door to see it.
Exactly. Remember, that thumbnail is the critical first impression. It's the handshake, the invitation on YouTube.
So the call to action here is really clear.
Yeah, we strongly encourage you. Start integrating thumbnail testing into your regular video upload process. Make it a standard step.
Just like writing a title or adding tags or writing the description, testing the thumbnail should be part of that workflow.
Absolutely. Make it routine.
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Just consider how many potential viewers, how much growth might you be missing out on right now simply because your thumbnails aren't as optimized as they could be.
And what surprising things might you learn about what really grabs your audience's attention if you actually start letting the data guide you? It's definitely something worth exploring.